Welcome to this West Coast Emergency Management Joint Committee meeting from 20th of November 2025, the first of our new triennium. My name is Simon Pickford. I'm the Chief Executive of Bullock District Council. So I'm going to welcome everybody to this first meeting. Welcome to Cindy online. Welcome, Francois. Welcome to our new members, Mayor Chris Russell from Bullock District Council and Colin Smith from the West Coast Regional Council. I think everyone else was here last time. So I will ask for any apologies. Have we got any apologies at all? I think we're all here. Oh, Daryl, of course, yes. Apology from Daryl. So the first paper we have is to seek nominations for and appoint a new chair for the West Coast Emergency Management Joint Committee meeting. And can I ask for nominations? Helen Lash, seconder from Mayor Buller. All right, we'll put that to the vote. No, any discussion before we put it to the vote? No? All right, put that to the vote. Let Mayor Helen Lash be the chair of the new West Coast Emergency Management Joint Committee. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Thank you.
There's no audio.
Just leave it on for you, Helen.
Okay. Where is he? Sorry there, Simon. I'll be the Rose. I'll be the Rose.
There you go.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Gosh, this is a bit unusual. Sorry, got to get used to the sound system. Thank you, everybody, for that. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to chair the West Coast Emergency Management Joint Committee, and would just like to reiterate Simon's welcome to Colin and Chris and Francois. Nice to see you back in the country and present here. You've been a busy chappie. Look forward to some catch-ups with you in the Mayor's Chairs and Iwi. So without further ado, we'll move on to the agenda. Confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting held on Friday, 30th of May, 2025. Being that we are restricted with those present that can actually confirm. Thank you, Tanya. And I'll second that. This is confirming the minutes from the last meeting because Tanya and I were the only ones that were present out of the new team. So all in favour of that?
Aye.
You happy with the minutes, Colin?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but just, yeah. Thank you. So any matters arising from those minutes? No matters arising? What I will, and I'm keen to do through this, being that Colin and Chris, this is your first one of these meetings. If you've got points of clarification that you require or any additional information you want to the background of what's being presented by Claire or Cindy or anybody, let's get that out so that you have the ability to get up to speed, because this is an ever-moving project. And yeah, there's a little bit to get your heads around, so don't hesitate, please. Claire, I'll hand over to you for the manager's report, please.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Tēnā tātou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou, kei te mihi ki ngā whaiwhakahaere o te tau o Kautini. ko Claire Brown taku ingoa, nō reira tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you. I will take you through my brief report on agenda item 3. So I've just put in the report an update on the quarterly activation activity that we've had in the last quarter. As you can see, we had quite a busy October, not only for us in the region, but other parts of the country as well that were affected with severe weather. We activated all our EOCs across Westport, Grey, and also Pukatika as well over that period of time. We had a number of other agencies who were in support of us throughout, including our colleagues from the National Emergency Management Agency. In terms of staffing updates, I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Zoe Double, who is here with us in the room. Zoe joined us a week and a bit ago, so it's brand new, and she is here as our new Emergency Management Officer for the Westland District. I also want to take this opportunity to just introduce you to Janice Lennon, who's here, who looks after the Buller District, Sean O'Halloran, who's also in the room, who is our advisor from the National Emergency Management Agency. And also on the screen, we have Cindy Fleming somewhere on the screen, who is also part of the Emergency Management Team, West Coast. We're also currently in the last throes of appointing a EMO for welfare and recovery. So we're hoping to be able to make some announcements about that in the next couple of days. The next item in my report is about the NEMA Resilience Fund application topics. We had a discussion about this at our coordinating executive group last week. I've put in the report the dot points of ideas that we discussed at the coordinating executive group, just to give you some flavour of the types of topics that we will be looking to agree on over the next couple of months. The applications are due by the end of January 2026. So you can see there that we've talked about having an alternate emergency coordination centre cache, which would also include a generator, a revision of the West Coast Fuel Plan that was last updated in April 2022. Looking at whether we do some type of medium-term economic impact report as a result of Alpine Fault rupture. And lastly, we talked about doing a region-wide promotional support campaign around business resilience, which would allow us to utilise the work that we're currently doing here through Resilient Westport and pull that across other parts of the region. So those are the topics that are on the table at the moment. And also just a quick update there that we are still in conversations with our colleagues at Fire Emergency about the co-location of the team in their premises in Greymouth. The recommendation for my report is to receive the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire, for that. Are there any questions from the report? Any points of clarification? Claire, I have a question just on the medium-term economic impact of the Alpine Fault rupture for the West Coast as part of that streamline of work. Estimated cost 150,000. Can we not take the information from those days in Wellington at that NEMA project for that? Because sure, I mean they've got that summarised now, which is exactly what it gives us for information.
Yeah, that's just referring to the recovery side that like year were able to contribute to earlier this year. And there was the scheme that was being exercised, this scenario, that was being exercised without involved fracture. So there will be a lot of work that's already been done around what the medium-term impact will be, not only for the region but for the country. And we will definitely be.
Sorry, Claire, you must have a button to press. It's quite blurry online.
Sorry, I'm not used to pushing the button. So yes, so there will be there will be information around the impact from alpine fault, not only for the region but other parts of the country as well. What we don't have, however, is a collated product which talks about economic impact. So we've done a little bit of homework to see if there is any, in fact, anything out there, but to our knowledge and understanding there isn't. So we think this is a really important piece of work that we would like to promote. Obviously, it would need to be done in coordination with the likes of Development West Coast and others. We appreciate that, but it's here because it's a topic that we thought was a good one to workshop with the coordinating executive group.
Agree, and the business resilience is something I think that probably needs to come to the fore, because whether it's COVID, whether it's a flood, whether it's the alpine fault, it's the coaching that's needed to give people the confidence of managing through those situations and what they can access.
That's right. So we're currently doing workshops and coaching for businesses in Westport. That piece of work's currently underway. So this topic was around how we utilise the work that we're already doing now, and how we help to sort of move that down to other parts of the region as well. So we've already got some really strong work happening today that we think it would make good sense to be able to deliver that program across other parts of the region.
Yeah, Francois here. Could you remind me on the current fuel situation? It might be of use to both Colin and Chris too. Can you remind me of the situation currently?
Fuel.
Yeah, fuel.
So
yeah.
Yes, so we've done, in the last couple of years, we've been focusing on improving our ability to get fuel and to store fuel in the region. So the last couple of initiatives, we've got 4 manual fuel pumps that we can locate in order to get fuel out of the ground when there is power outages. We've also provided fuel cells across the region as well, so that we've got a place to put fuel when we get fuel into the region. But we also need to understand what our current stock is in terms of fuel. So that fuel plan that we did back in 2022, there's obviously been quite a number of changes, and we need to keep that plan as alive as possible. So that's why we've put that in here, so that we've got a really current picture about the fuel supply, who's got what on the coast. So that enables us to reach up to the likes of the National Coordination Centre and give them a very clear picture about what our reserves are and the duration that we have in terms of supplying our critical services, so that we can get support as quickly as possible. So for a lot of our activations, if we've got really good timely intel that we can, push up in a coordinated, validated way, it really helps us, move up to the top of the priority list compared to other parts of the country.
Also, just on that, do we have relationships in place, or some form of documentation in place with the fuel providers at the moment, i.e. service stations and that, to be able to utilise this stuff in an emergency? Do we have anything in place there?
Yes, so a current piece of work, just to go back a couple of years, we through the NEMA Resilience Fund, we were able to support 15 fuel stations across the region to be generator ready. So that work has happened, which was a great piece of work. And off the back of that, we have MOUs with each of those so that they appreciate who we are in a response and what the obligations are, so that when we need to contact them to either secure what is a critical resource, it isn't a surprise to them and they understand what we're trying to achieve. With a declaration, of course, with a declaration, the powers of that mean that we can commandeer, but our objective is to have that conversation beforehand so that they already appreciate who we are and what we do, so that it isn't sort of a heavy hand in a declaration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for that. Are there any other questions for Claire? No. So the recommendation is that we receive the report from our manager. So can I have a move and a seconder for that, please?
Move.
Thank you, Tanya. Move. Colin, second. All in favour? Carried. Thank you for that. Claire, staying with you, we go on to the revised group plan, please. The draft for endorsement.
Thank you, Chair. So just to quickly summarise the report, we have been working on revising our group plan over the last 18 months or so. This has involved a number of workshops, interagency workshops around that, including a review of the hazard risk assessment. The main changes to the plan, to the new plan, are the alignment with the vision and goals of the National Disaster Resilience Strategy. Now, that's a NEMA document. Apologies, there's a typo in the report, which was produced in 2019. Secondly, it's an update of the risk assessment and hazard information. It also now has the inclusion of mana whenua iwi section outlining arrangements and partnerships, and it's a revision of the activities across the 4 Rs, being reduction, readiness, response and recovery, and it has a much stronger focus on community response. Just in terms of highlights, this is not only intended to support and guide the work of the group office, but also those other partner agencies as well. It has in it 16 objectives that covers 52 activities, and it really is our intended to be our foundation document that helps support and drive the direction of the work program. The next steps for the report, for the plan, is to seek your endorsement of the plan. It is currently in draft form because it needs to go up for public submission, and I propose that happen over the next 2 to 3 months. Then it needs to have a technical review from the National Emergency Management Agency, and after that, any revisions are made as a result of any input from the public, and then it's finalised and goes to the Minister for approval. So we're hoping that through that course that we have a product that we're able to take to the Minister around the first quarter of next year. So it's a very important piece of work. Our current group plan was initiated in 2016. So a lot has happened over that time. I might also add that the support that we've had to put the new plan together has been aligned with about 7 other groups across the country. So we've got a much higher level of consistency across other groups, having had the advantage of being able to utilise the same contractor that has helped to put this together. I'm hoping that you've all had some opportunity to have a read through it. It really gives us a really strong mandate for the work that we do. It connects us in what's happening at a national level, and as I said earlier, it also joins up with a number of our neighbouring groups as well. I appreciate that there are some of you around the table who haven't been along the journey over those 18 months. Happy to take any questions at all on the plan, but I do want to emphasise that this is a draft for public consultation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire, for that. And it is, there's a lot of reading in it, but it's actually quite impressive where we've got to with this. I do have a question for you, is that once we have this finalised and we've had the feedback through the submission period, is there any intention to make this document open to the public?
Absolutely.
With this, I just think this is key for them understanding the work that's been done and what's in place. Because I mean, while people know that this, you know, we have these meetings and there is a civil defence, they actually don't understand the gravity of the work that's done and why it's being done. And I just think we need to probably profile that. Once we get this done, let's profile that more.
Yes, I agree entirely. I think we need to promote and profile the work that not only us as a team, but all of, you know, the system does throughout the region, and perhaps it's an area that we need to improve on. This document is a really great platform for doing a lot more communication around who we are and what we do and what the public should expect from us. So it's an accountability document as well.
Oh, sorry, through the chair. Claire, I just wondered, I know the document's going up for consultation for 2 months, but the 2 months goes across Christmas and early New Year period. Have you factored that into, I know it's difficult, there's never a good time of the year, but that's particularly difficult time, I guess, for people coming back.
Through the chair, we did have a discussion about this at the coordinating executive group meeting a fortnight ago about the timing, not ideal over Christmas. Under the Act, we need to have it out for at least 1 month. So our thinking was that let's extend that through until the end of February so that it gives a longer period of time for public to connect in with the plan rather than hold it up until next year, which was the other alternative.
Tanya.
Sorry, no audio.
I just press it.
That's the right hand side button.
Sorry, yes, we only received this yesterday, I believe, and yeah, it was quite late coming in such a big document. If we can have these things a little bit sooner in the agendas prior to the meeting, that would be good, just so that we can actually go over it thoroughly, because it was a bit rushed last night trying to get through it.
Cool.
Through the chair, so the report is really comprehensive, but this type of plan is not the thing that's going to excite the public. They're not going to read it, to be honest. The key is education. At the last meeting, I've raised this at a number of these meetings about tsunami. And I thought we had agreed in there that the tsunami hazard would be included in the work program, and the group work plan. So, and I don't see it there. What I do see, of course, is There's a section in there about lake tsunami, which is fine, but in context, you know, we don't have a lot of people that live close to the shoreline of lakes on the coast. What we do have is a very real tsunami risk to the whole of the coastline, in particular the main centres of population. And I know that the argument is, well, you know, if it's long and strong, you know, people have the time to get out. I still believe that the best solution for tsunami risk on the Taipōtini is sirens. And again, I've heard that there are arguments against using sirens, but there are other regions such as Northland that do use sirens, and they, as long as there's education, then I don't see why we wouldn't use sirens as we used in the past. But I think I mean, we can't underestimate the risk of tsunami on the west coast, and it's not only from the Alpine Fault. It may be other fault lines out at sea, for instance, that rupture, and you know, there might be a jolt on land, but I don't know that there would be a sufficient warning from that. And then would people be aware though from that what to do? And I really don't think that there's enough education out there about it.
Okay.
So, Chair, thank you. So there is
Audio, sorry.
Thank you. So there is a section in the group plan around tsunami. It was one of the 5 risks that we workshopped because we appreciate the gravity of the risk and the impact of that type of event. We also have it included in our work program around implementation of the National Tsunami Guidelines, which were recently released a month or 2 ago. All of the groups across the country have through till 2028 to align themselves with that National Tsunami Guideline. So that needs to be a specific part of the work program, which it is, which we reviewed at KEG last meeting. I would propose that we maybe have an offline separate session around sirens to sort of explore that more and to look at the examples that we've got in other parts of the country. Yes, Northland do have sirens, which they exercise and test on a regular basis. Other areas such as Auckland have recently taken all of these sirens out. And so we do have a mix across the country of areas that use or don't use sirens. But regardless of that, I would like to invite Chair Madgwick to have further conversations about this is an opportunity for the region. Thank you.
And an opportunity for the submission. Paul.
Thank you. So I did see in that the draft work plan the other tsunami as well as the lake tsunami risk. But from my quick read of it, Claire, it was referring to the tsunami risk around river mouths, which is the hazards that are mapped in the TTPP. It's not about the risk of a major tsunami on the coastline. It is more focused on those river mouths and the hazard zones identified in the TTPP. I may be wrong, but because we didn't have much time to read the report.
If I can, Paul, just on page 61, followed over to 63, it does refer to the coast. It doesn't refer to river mouths. And it's, the coasters, guide, but, there is reference and also the maps, they're clearly showing the impact to shoreline, so. But I think as far as clarification goes, it's something that can go in a submission if somebody feels they need more clarification specifically. But I think regarding the sirens, there's a lot of work to do on that because we've got a huge area that would have to have sirens installed. And the lakes, then why the comment's been passed that there aren't many people living next to our lakes in the summertime. We have a massive population based around our lakes, which are at danger should there be an alpine rupture at that time. So we have to take responsibility for protecting those people. But Claire, I think that's another line of work that we can do is look at sirens, and I mean, to map out how many we would need would be quite staggering, and how they would be used. So that's something perhaps to note as a further bit of work to come forward to the meeting. Tanya.
I think most of those sirens would already still be in place. I mean, in growing up in Cobden, they're always reactive to the siren, and that wouldn't most of those little small communities have fire brigades that still have all of that infrastructure in place?
I don't know, so that would be,
wouldn't have to
would
install
have to understand what was in place, what had been maintained. There will need to be quite a lot of work around understanding what we currently have or don't have.
And what can be utilised from other agencies as well, because the thing is, there's a lot of gaps between the fire sirens and on the south side of Hokitika. If the wind's blowing in the right direction, we hear the siren in Hokitika, otherwise we don't, and that'll be replicated down through all the coastal areas up in north and south. So a bit of homework to be done there. But yeah, we can bring that forward as a line of work for a future meeting, if you're right with that, Claire. So I think that's sort of the consensus at the table. Any further questions on that report of Claire's? Colin?
Through the chair, Claire, what's the alternative to sirens? What do other regions use?
Thank you. So we have the emergency mobile alert, which is we're able to identify areas where a succinct message is pushed out to mobile phones within a particular area. So that is a great way of being able to get to a huge amount of people at once. We utilised the emergency mobile alert in October for the Greymouth area as a result of the water issue there at that time. So with tsunami, which we also have had in the last couple of years, NEMA, who have a 24-hour 7-day monitoring team, if there is a imminent risk of tsunami across the country, that is pushed out to everyone. So we do have ways to do some quite quick, broad messaging to areas across the country or to all of the country. But that only depends on people having a device and people being within coverage. So it doesn't get everyone. So you also have to work with communities, which we do, around where the evacuation areas are. We talk a lot about long, strong, get gone. So that is if you are in an earthquake and it's long and it's strong, the advice is to get up high as you can and land as quickly as possible. So that is promoted strongly through the national annual exercise called Shakeout. So we had that in October. So that's one of the ways that we try and continually promote and talk about tsunami. But there are probably, depending on how much time we have, there will be a range of different communication channels that we would use. So if we've got a couple of hours, versus or 12 hours. So depends if it's local, regional, or distant. Does that help sort of explain?
No, thanks, Claire, that helps, and that sort of leads on to what Paul was saying earlier in terms of people not reading the document, but out there educating the public about the content. Thanks.
Just to acknowledge that I used to work in civil defence in Northland, so I was involved a lot with the rollout of those sirens. Yes, they're great, and Northland is one of the most at-risk places in the country for tsunamis from various directions. They take a lot of effort. They took years to roll out at the cost of putting up individual sirens, because you want them to have a different sound to anything else so that people know what they are hearing. They take a lot of community engagement to get community plans around what to do when the siren goes off. And they need signage and everything around explaining to anybody who's a tourist what to do if you're in this area. So it's quite a massive project to undertake, and it takes a lot of investment and quite a few years, just to give you a little bit of thought on that.
Thank you, Jo. They're very valid comments too. And somebody with the insight to that, it's beneficial. So thank you for that. Paul?
Yeah, that's interesting. When we were growing up, we were always told that the siren went off. There was the fire sirens that we used. It was like long, short, long. It was, you know, that was the SOS for a tsunami. We knew that as children, but so I don't know that that's anywhere else.
So there's a lot of good information here we can use to take this to a further conversation, Claire, I think.
Just quickly, sorry, Helen, quickly, Claire. I mean, this could be a long-term play, right? I mean, agree, this is a massive undertaking and there's a big area to cover and a lot of education, do blah, blah, blah. But if this is something we can put on a work plan that just that's for, you know, over the next 10 or so years, I think it's worth considering.
Yep, I totally agree. So I think it's sort of quite unanimous around the table, Claire, that perhaps we'll put this in as a work stream and get some background into it. If you're happy with that, I think that's where everybody's at with this. Thank you. If there's no further questions for Jo, I'm after endorsement that the revised West Coast Emergency Group Plan, be endorsed. So Tanya, thank you. Everybody happy for that? All seconding that? Chris?
Yes.
Colin, everybody's in support of the endorsement. Thank you very much. Done. It's endorsed. Francois in agreement. Paul's in agreement. It's unanimous around the table. Thanks, Claire. Next, Cindy, please, the capability report and update on orientation program.
Good morning. So with the training and capability program, so far this year we've had 189 participants. This is not unique participants. Some of these have been to different trainings across the year. We've still got 3 function trainings happening next week, and that's another 35 people have been registered to attend those, taking our total, assuming they all turn up, to over 120 people having been trained this year. So in the last couple of years, we have stuck very closely to the main functions across our SIMS system. You'll see in the report that we have had some cancellations and having to defer some trainings. We were going to be offering the operations course in Westport that was supposed to have been scheduled in October for November. However, we haven't had enough participants for that, so that has been cancelled and will be re-offered again next year. Regionally, the West Coast receives around about $50,000 from NEMA as part of their capability fund to support our training. We managed to get an additional $20,000 from there, and we have received money from the district councils and regional council for the surplus of the budget for the training for the year. I'm just waiting for the quotes to come back from the facilitators to be looking at the budget for 2026. We're hoping to offer some training outside of the basics, for example, psychological welfare, so that we can extend our training reach within the West Coast for 2026. Is there any questions?
Cindy, just quickly from me, just in terms of, with all the activations we have and all the work all the issues we have on the coast, is there any other district or region around the country that's as active as us in this space? And how do we compare in funding to them?
So the funding, I understand, is everybody receives a set amount as a base, and then there's a top up to population. So, for example, and I'm not sure of the exact figure, for example, we may all receive $30,000 as a base, and then there's a top up per population. So we do have a very low funding from national for that. However, we are putting through a lot of attendees, so when we're able to apply for extra money, we do that.
Thank you.
So Cindy, with all that training and the numbers that have gone through, how are we positioned with our accessible, qualified people that can hit the ground running under a situation?
So each council varies. It depends. You'll see in the figures in the next page, you'll see that there's quite a difference in the amount of people that are put forward for training. With the activations and even the monitoring activations that we have, that's bringing experience into our teams all the time. Ideally, we would like to get to 3 shifts per council as our base, being able to run and have our professionals as such in the ECC or the EOC, supported by volunteers or other support staff. So we've had a lot of experience this year, especially in October with the rain warnings and everything, and that's all helping and supporting our councils. So each council works differently in the way that they put staff forward for going into an activation.
We're really not in a position to pick and choose, are we? Many people we can have come forward to train, the better.
And we really need the support of the SLT and CEs in the councils to be able to release those people to attend to the training exercises and be there for activations.
Thank you. Any further questions, Claire?
Through the chair, may I suggest that we provide a tally or a picture to you that gives you an understanding about the numbers of trained personnel you have across each of the 4 councils, and that will give you a better picture about who we've currently got, who's got the training and who we don't, and where the gaps and pressures are.
Yeah, that would be beneficial, I think, very much so. From my perspective now, if we had a situation, I've got no idea, because we've always got changes. Who's going to be, what the numbers are going to look like, and where the pressure points are. Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks, Claire. Any further questions for Claire? Righty ho. Sorry, not for Claire, for Cindy. It's Cindy's report. Sorry, Cindy.
No, that's okay.
Can I have somebody please move and second that we receive Cindy's report? Thank you, Tanya. Moving. Second. Thanks, Chris. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy, very much for that. And I see Henry's on the screen now. Welcome, Henry, to the table.
Good morning.
Advanced evacuation planning. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Sort of a couple of things in terms of this report. The first is obviously just giving you a general update on the range of activities being undertaken as part of the Resilient Westport Civil Defence Emergency Management Programme. But possibly most importantly, seeking your endorsement of the evacuation plan for Westport, which was approved at the previous KEG meeting, and so tabled today for your endorsement. The plan itself, I think it's important to note that its target audience is really the controllers and the people that are involved in implementing an evacuation, as opposed to the public per se. However, there certainly is a good deal of information in the plan which would be of interest to the public. You'll see in the plan there's some estimates in there and some assumptions around the different sort of capabilities of the community in terms of self-evacuation, their accommodation, transport, and other needs. Those estimates were sort of based on what, sort of good information we could access through statistics and otherwise. But we also, as part of the sort of initial community engagement around the plan, undertook a survey where we were just, I guess, looking to test those estimates in terms of what the community were telling us in terms of their capability. It was sort of somewhat encouraging that the results of the survey aligned by and large with the estimates that we had developed, but there was one or two areas which identified, a need for a little bit of further consideration. And I think it's probably less about the estimates themselves, but just about the communication and engagement with the community. So, similar to what you were talking about before around tsunami, so they actually understand, for example, how decisions are made about whether or not to evacuate, all the data and stuff that's considered and who makes that decision, the sort of timeframes that they would have to be able to prepare and to evacuate in the event that there's a risk of an evacuation. And also, things like whereabouts are they going to be directed to for an evacuation? The preference obviously being that people think ahead and plan where they would go themselves if they have their own transport. But naturally, there are some people who need that sort of level of direction. So these are the sort of things that in the next phase of the project through into 2026, we'll be developing information and disseminating that information to the community, if you like, in the form of an evacuation handbook. And that will go to every home in the at-risk areas. And there will be other activities that we're looking to undertake potentially as well, through schools, working with school kids and things like that. So that's the sort of the ongoing plan for that. In relation to other components of the work program, there was some capital expenditure on containerized resources to support an alternate EOC, or Emergency Operations Centre, and another container full of sort of welfare care gear. Those purchases have been largely complete, but we do still have, I think, about 10 or 15,000 left, which is going to be applied to sort of further resources. So that will be ongoing through into the new year. The other sort of key area of activity is around business continuity and resilience. And that kicked off at the end of October with a launch event. Next week, there are two workshops being held on the 25th and 26th. We've got around 20 businesses that have signed up to attend those workshops, and this is really about helping those businesses understand how to assess their risks, how to actually, if you like, avoid or remedy or mitigate those risks, and also to consider about building networks with other businesses, which can, so they can support each other both, ahead of an event and during and after an event. And so we've also been doing some work at sort of thinking about how to build that network and establish it in a way so it can actually become something much bigger than just around business continuity resilience, but sort of a broader business association, if you like. And there's already been, I think, at least over 50 businesses that have expressed interest in participating in that. So we think that's an excellent start, given we've really only been focusing on this for a few weeks. And as I mentioned, the community engagement stuff will continue into the new year. Another sort of large piece of work relates to sort of data management to support responses. And again, we're doing some deep thinking about this in terms of how to align with what's being done at a national level, and also getting alignment with so there's 8 or 9 other regions which are also doing some work in this space. But there's a demonstration of some of that activity being arranged, and once we understand that, we'll be able to figure out what our next steps are to align with that. Sorry, that was a bit of a ramble, but that covers the full range of activities.
Thank you, Henry, because it's a very comprehensive report. Yeah, very comprehensive report. It's probably something that we can sort of replicate, as Claire said before, that we could replicate this down through other regions on the coast. Claire, I've just got something I want clarified, is the state of emergency, when you declare, that's what gives the police the sanction to actually physically evacuate people. Without that declaration, they can only suggest people move from their homes.
Correct.
Yeah, and that also reflects through to when people can go back into their houses. So do we need to note that somewhere in this document, that a state of emergency declaration is what empowers the agencies to enforce the instructions that have been provided? Because I mean, it's something that we get challenged on constantly, and people actually don't realise. When I had to clear one stage there, just so we could have the power to close roads in South Westland. You know, it's just that statement. People get used to that it actually allows the agencies to go in and enforce. It may sort of assist down the track rather than get some of those pressure points where people refuse to move.
Yes, I might just question whether I think we currently refer to declarations in the evacuation plan, but if that's not the case, then we probably should, even if it's just a note.
Yeah.
So that the EOC understands at what point in time we might need to consider a declaration. What Henry also referred to is the development of a public-facing handbook, if you like, around evacuations. And in that we can also talk about there will be instances where we do have to declare to enable those extra powers to kick in, because there are always parts of our community that resist or don't want to leave home. So we're aware of that. So I think what we need to do is just check that we're referring to that in the right way, and we need to add that into the handbook as well, if Henry and Janice can make a note of that.
It's a big document, and I was looking for it, but I was reading everything else, so it could be tucked in there, but it didn't stand out.
Yeah, there's definitely mention in there about when the declaration occurs. And I would stand corrected, but I believe the police actually do have some powers under their own legislation to require people to leave areas under certain circumstances, as well as in addition to declarations. But yeah, look, I think the place for that information to get the message to drive the message home that you're talking about is in that community information in that handbook that we're looking to prepare.
In the handbook.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the person, I think, wait for the right answer. Is it coming up?
No. Sorry.
There's a whole section about making the declaration.
Audio, sorry. Audio.
On.
Yeah, it's read. Now, Cindy,
Yes, thank you. Can hear you now.
so in the document, there's a whole page about making a declaration. And when you make a declaration, the police and everyone else is involved in it.
Yes.
So that's covered off quite extensively it's in one of the appendixes.
Right. I couldn't find it.
It's definitely there.
Okay.
And with the police powers, the controllers understand the police powers and things. I'd be a little bit concerned from my perspective as being an EMO about putting too much around the police powers. We don't want to frighten people. And we don't want to alienate them from the police when the police are trying to do a job as well. And it is the very last resort. So we'd have to be really delicate about how we actually did that.
Through the chair, just to add on to that commentary is its last resort. Obviously through our communication, through teams that are walking around, neighbourhoods that are or have been affected, it's about working with our community so that they understand the importance of what we're trying to do. Very last resort that we would look at working with police around arrests, because that's essentially what we're talking about. And I think, I'm not sure if we've had any examples of that in the region, but it does allow police to use those powers if required. And that is why the public handbook is a really good way to educate and inform the public of, this is how it sort of operates, and this is who does what, and these are some extreme scenarios, so that the public have a good understanding, so that they can be informed, and so when the time comes, it's a relatively more smoother operation. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the point, isn't it? Is that when we've declared in the past, it's actually I know the police feel a lot more comfortable getting out and doing what they've got to do when they've got that sanction behind them, because there's less resistance to them. And when that has happened, the public will cover quickly as far as the different roles the police are actually performing. So it's just more so giving them the ability and the confidence that they can do what they're charged to do, because at the end of the day, it's life that's important. Because there does seem to be a little bit of confusion on a declaration and what it and who it empowers. That's just something that, it's good for people to be informed and actually understand where it sits, that's all. But if it's in the notebook, that's fine. Cool.
Through the chair, so that power extends presumably to the army as well. Right?
Through the chair, so no, that's only a police constable or someone that's been delegated their powers that's able to exercise that. So in exceptional circumstances, it's possible but unlikely.
I'm just looking back on those wonderful photos of the army, piggybacking people out of the floodwaters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about with no consent.
Right, okay. Anything further for Henry, please, on that report? And thank you, Henry, for it's a very in-depth one. It's taken a lot of time and focus and comprehension of all components that affect this, because it's no light topic and it's no light solution on how you manage this. So well done.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I'd just also like to acknowledge, the excellent support from a whole range of people that contributed to it, including Janice, who's in the room, and Claire, and many people from emergency services and other areas as well. MPI, provided a lot of information around, looking after pets and animals, which again is another big topic that often crops up in these conversations. So, a real team effort.
Oh, thank you, Henry. So with that, two things to acknowledge here. One is that we receive and note the update on the Resilient Westport Emergency Management Project, and that we endorse the enhanced Westport Flood Evacuation Response Plan. Tanya move, thank you. Second, thank you, Chris. All in favour? Gary, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Right, now we have Sean for the National Emergency Management Agency. Floor's yours, Sean.
Yeah, kia ora tātou, ko Sean O'Halloran tōku ingoa. Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points from me. Happy to take the report as read. So the new emergency management bill is currently being drafted, and we're expecting that to go to select committee process sometime this side of the new year. And additionally, the MSIP program, which is the Emergency Management System Improvement Program, which came off the back of the lessons from Cyclone Gabrielle and the North Island severe weather events. So those work streams are also progressing and NEMA intends to submit budget bids for inclusion in the government's budget 26-27. And the final thing, just to touch back on tsunami siren piece, is that NEMA doesn't officially endorse the use of tsunami sirens. However, we do acknowledge that there are local circumstances which mean that they are the most appropriate format in a multimodal warning system. And an example of that is Christchurch City at the moment, my previous employer, decommissioning the bulk of their sirens. However, they're going to have a couple in specific places where people are unlikely to have their cell phones, whether it be due to recreational activities that they're undertaking or the fact that there just isn't reception in that location, so they wouldn't be able to receive an emergency mobile alert. So there is a technical standard that we produce that details the specifics that sirens have to fall within, but officially we don't endorse them as the primary means of warning system, just to provide a little bit of extra context to that conversation earlier. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Brilliant. It's good having you here. Questions for Sean, please. And again, for Colin and Chris, if there's anything, any more information or any more background that you want, please let Sean know, or Claire or Cindy, or Janice for that matter. Their knowledge is quite profound on all these situations, so, and they all cross over with one another too, so it's a rather refreshing access to valid information.
Good question.
Oh, you've got it. Okay.
So through the chair, so do we know, Sean, when the submission process is likely to be and the timing?
Through the chair, so we haven't had anything official yet, but we are expecting that will be before Christmas. So as you may recall, last year we had a very tight turnaround period for making submissions. So it does feel like it might be similar. I just want to let the committee know that the 16 groups across the country, we are preparing to make a joint submission, given what we already understand will be in the bill. So it will be sort of a bit of a recap of what we've already provided over the last couple of years. So yeah, we are expecting that there may be a very tight turnaround.
Through the chair, I just wonder whether it's worth thinking about how we might, as a joint committee, ratify that, given the tight time frame, and we won't be meeting again until the new year after this is obviously closed for submissions.
Through the chair, when as soon as we are advised that submissions are open and we have access to the draft bill, we would like to kick off that process as quickly as possible. So if there was some agreement around across the committee that we're able to do that through emails as opposed to waiting obviously till the next joint committee, which will be way too late, that with your support we would like to do that.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. It keeps things moving and doesn't have any delays, and we make sure we get what needs to be on the table. So you'll coordinate that through the systems. Point of contact being everybody that's part of the committee, and we can go to the teams that sit behind that. Excellent, thank you, Claire. And time frame for councils to come back to you with that?
So I expect the last time we had a month turnaround, which was extended to 6 weeks, so it might be something similar. I know that there will be pretty tight timeframes because the minister is intending to push this through as far as possible before the next general election. So I'm anticipating that it will be quite quick. Hopefully it's the 6 week period. So when we get that initial document out, we will review that And I think it's only reasonable that you have at least, you know, two weeks to consider a draft proposal. So that's the timeframe that ideally I'd be hoping for.
So if you can, when you send it out, just remind that there's that sort of 2-week turnaround period, because we're coming up to Christmas. I'd hate to see it sort of slip through. Yeah, and the last thing we need to be reacted to is a knee-jerk reaction to how we respond. So thank you for that. So any further questions for Sean? No. Right. So can I have somebody please move and second that we receive Sean's report? Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Chris. All in favour? Yep. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sean, for that. Right, moving on to general business. Does anybody have anything for general business? No? No? Claire, I've got one question. The cost of our program, coastwide program, it'd be good to see a report on how we're coping with that and where it sits, because I mean, do we have anybody, I'm thinking when you mentioned about welfare and recovery positions, do we have people employed that are sitting there waiting for an event, or is everybody actually active every day in their role as civic defence?
Everyone's active every day. So we work around what we call the 4 R's: reduction, readiness, response, and recovery. So any given point in time where we are in or across a number of those R's. So we have a team of 7 FTEs, which includes myself. We're having to make an announcement about the recovery welfare position in a matter of days. But can I suggest, because we are currently having conversations across councils about the 26-27 financial year, that we bring to the next meeting in February what that you know, budget funding breakdown looks like across all 4 councils.
No, that's a good idea. And it also gives our new members some idea of the structure, budgetary requirements, and how they're being managed. Jo?
But I also suggest that we bring back to you the or make available the current work program that's already been signed off, which will give you again a good indication of what the team's working on for those of you who are new.
That's good. Good, thanks, Jo. Really appreciate it. So just on that, is there anything else just from today that Chris and Colin, you see you'd like a one-on-one with, or more info?
No, I'm good. We've had how many, Claire? 2 or 3 briefings during the induction process and today. Very, very good. Thank you.
Through the chair, very steep learning curve, but very, very interesting. Very interesting. And obviously, as a member of the general public, certainly not aware this was all going on. So yeah, very enlightening and very, very reassuring to see that this is going on for our community. So thanks to all of you in the team that are working towards the goal of maximum resilience. Very reassuring. Thank you.
No, thank you, Colin, because it is, and I sort of do wonder about that. How do we get out there what the body of work is? But what we don't need is people to be complacent thinking that's right. We don't need to think about what's involved because you're all doing the work for us. But it would be good for people to get an understanding of the work that's involved, because it's not minor. And any situation, whether it's weather related or seismic, you know, the amount of planning that goes on to protect people and secure our residents. It's major. We do take it seriously. And I think we actually lead that. Well, I know when I was in Wellington with Claire, was that only last year? You know, we certainly lead the country with this work. I was quite shocked at how little so many of the other regions around the country actually were aware of the alpine fault, even our neighbours on the southland side, the impacts. You know, I was shocked actually at just how lightly they regard the impact on themselves. And of course, we are going to wear the brunt of it. So the amount of work that's going into this is significant, but there's very good reason for it.
Well, if I may, you know, that in itself is a good story to get out and about, you know, particularly for people all over the coast, isn't it?
We have an editor here at the table who's got his eyebrows up. Is this a story for you, Paul? About the good work and recognise the effort that goes into this and the structure and what's involved. Right, is there anything further in general business? No? That's fine, nothing up there? All good, okay. Right, so with that, we can draw the meeting to a close at 10:50. And the next meeting is the 19th of February in Western District Council chambers. So I look forward to seeing everybody down there and thank everybody for their time today.